Hey there, and welcome. Today we're jumping into a huge question. What does it actually take to be a successful leader in today's world? One that not only succeeds, but endures. Because let's be honest, the old rule books, they just don't cut it anymore. So let's get into it.
All right, so let's kick things off with this question right here. For a long time, the main goal for any business leader was pretty simple: make money, keep the shareholders happy. But is that really enough anymore? I think we all know the answer. Society is shouting back at us, and it's a big, fat nope.
You see, the whole game has changed. Today, leaders are expected to juggle a whole lot more. Of course, you've got to be profitable. That's just table stakes to keep the lights on. But on top of that, you have to be legal, you're expected to be moral, and you need to be a socially responsible citizen. This isn't a wish list. It's the new blueprint for success that lasts.
Okay, so let's build this new leadership model right from the ground up. And the absolute bedrock, the first gate that every single business decision has to pass through, is just playing by the rules.
Legality is our baseline. It's the set of non-negotiable rules we've all agreed to as a society to kind of keep our own self-interest from going completely off the rails. You know, it's the law. If what you're thinking of doing isn't legal, well, the conversation's over before it even starts. It's the essential first hurdle, but as we're about to see, it's definitely not the last.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because the law has its limits. Just because something is technically legal doesn't automatically make it the right thing to do. The law is full of what our source material calls moral gaps. You know, places where there's no rule or the rule is super weak or nobody's even enforcing it. And what about those fuzzy lines? Like, when does a friendly business gift become a flat-out bribe? This is exactly why you need more than just a legal team.
So, what do you do when you find yourself in one of those gray areas? Well, when the law goes quiet, we have to climb up to the next level of our model. It's time to talk about doing what's right. This is all about morality.
Now, to navigate these tricky moral situations, you can't just go with your gut. You need a better framework. So think of this next part as a toolkit. We've got 4 different ethical lenses we can use to look at a problem and figure out the most moral way forward.
First up, we have something called ethical egoism. Now, I know what you're thinking. Egoism sounds kind of selfish, right? But it's actually way smarter than that. The idea here is that being a good, ethical company is actually in your own best interest for the long haul. You know, treating your people well isn't just nice. It means they work harder and stick around longer. It's basically saying that good ethics is just good business. Okay, our second lens is ethical relativism. This one is pretty straightforward. It's the classic when in Rome, do as the Romans do idea. It suggests that what's considered moral really just depends on the local culture and their norms. So the key is to really understand the context you're operating in. Now, let's switch gears to a lens that's all about the outcome. This is utilitarianism. And for a utilitarian, a decision is moral if it creates the biggest benefit for the most people possible. It's a really powerful way to think about the ripple effects of a business decision on, well, everyone. And our final lens, Kantian ethics, is a really interesting counterpoint to that last one. For a Kantian, the outcome doesn't matter nearly as much as the action itself. The core idea is that every single human being has dignity and worth, and they must always be treated with respect, never, ever as just a cog in the machine or a mere means to get what you want. This slide just perfectly captures the clash between these ideas. Take the really tough example of a sweatshop. If you look at it through a utilitarian lens, you could argue that it's moral. I mean, it creates cheap clothes for millions of people and provides jobs, right? The good for the many outweighs the suffering of the few. But a Kantian would look at that and say, absolutely not. The action itself is immoral because you're exploiting people, you're treating them as a means to an end. It just goes to show you how you look at the problem completely changes the answer.
But wait, we're not done. Our model doesn't just stop at being legal and moral. The final layer, the thing that really separates good leaders from great ones today, is about going above and beyond. It's about being a good corporate citizen.
And I think this quote just nails it. This is what we mean when we talk about corporate social responsibility, or CSR. It's not about feeling forced to do something. It's a genuine commitment. It's this idea that businesses actually have a part to play in making the world a better place. And listen, this is so important. We're not just talking about writing a big check to a charity once a year. No. Strategic CSR is about weaving social good right into the fabric of your business. It's about finding those win-win situations, creating shared value, where you solve a real problem for society, and in doing so, you create real economic value for your company.
And just look at these amazing examples of it in action. Toyota didn't just donate to an environmental group. They built the Prius. They saw a need for cleaner cars, they filled it, and they created a gigantic new market for themselves. Unilever helps provide safe drinking water, which improves public health and, hey, builds a loyal customer base for the future. It's CSR used as a real competitive advantage. That's just smart business.
Okay, so we've got all the pieces on the board: legality, morality, and social responsibility. Now let's put it all together and take a look at the complete sustainable leadership model.
And there it is. Now, I know it might look a little complicated at first glance, but think of it like a roadmap. At the very heart of it, you've got to create economic value. But look at what's holding it up: the law on one side and morality on the other. That solid foundation is what allows a company to be socially and environmentally responsible, all of which feeds back into the ultimate goal: sustainable leadership.
So let's just trace the flow real quick. Down at the bottom, you've got that foundation of legality and morality. You just can't build a business that lasts without those. That strong base is what makes it possible for the company to then pursue social and environmental good. And when all those pieces are working together in harmony, that's when you get to the real prize: true, sustainable leadership.
So after all that, what's the one thing you should walk away with? It really boils down to this simple but incredibly powerful little tool: the 3-value drill. For any decision you're facing, big or small, you just ask these 3 questions in this order. 1, is it legal? If the answer is yes, move on. 2, is it moral? And if you can say yes to that, you ask the final question. 3, what would a truly socially responsible company do in this situation? That right there, that's the mindset.
And that really brings us to the final thought here. The challenge for all of us today isn't just about hitting next quarter's numbers. It's about building something with the integrity and the strength to last for generations. So the question I want to leave you with is this: how are you going to build an organization that doesn't just profit, but actually endures?